Last time we talked, one thing that came to my mind while we were talking is the whole thing about satsang and why we're face to face right now is out of this whole world appearance, all the pink elephants and everything else, everything that's happening, this is what I'm most drawn to. This, you know, the people that I surround myself with and everything. And so it's really, it is quite a beautiful thing to just be drawn to the most conscious, and probably that's not the right word, most conscious, the actual conscious.
Yes.
Reality.
Being drawn to consciousness, yes. You know, to it's being drawn to truth, being drawn to you know, the question that arises is the question that arises about what am I? You know, what is the truth? What is this manifestation about? What is it? I mean, it's true that the mind sort of has a story and sort of lives through the story. It's sort of like repeating the story. Oh yeah, this is next, and that's next, and that's my history, and projects my future. Mm-hmm. But at the core, it's a big mystery. It's a deep mystery. What is this? What is this that we're experiencing? What is it? What is its reality? What is it about? So once that question arises and it sort of catches your attention, and you turn your attention to it, it's really not you're doing as a person. It is sort of grace, you know, knocking on your door and saying, hey, you know, you've been living, you know, your male life, your female life, your brothers, your mothers, your mother, your father, your sisters, your money, your work. You've been living all that, but suddenly there's a knock on your door saying, hey, what is this about? Who are you truly? What is it? What is this sense of me? What is this? What is the reality of what we refer to as I? Because it's all about I. I mean, I'm born, I'm living, I'm my mother, my father, my car, my house, my husband, my wife, my, you know, it's what is that I? What is that about? When that knock comes on your door, and somehow, again, it's all through grace. Mm-hmm. You turn your attention to it, you hear it, and once you hear that invitation, you are on the path. You're starting to make your way to the source, to truth, and that path is a path of beauty, love, and just happiness. It's a path of happiness. And as you're traveling that path, there is some sort of echo.
I wonder if it has to do with the other person that's on. I don't know who it is.
No, I don't think so. No.
My volume is low.
It's okay. We'll just live with it. So, as you start to contemplate the self, to contemplate, you know, truth, you become more and more happy.
Yes.
And what is there? What is more beautiful than happiness, than love, than beauty? You know? So, when you say that, I find the satsang or contemplation of truth to be such an important part of my life. Mm-hmm. You're basically saying that happiness, love, beauty, joy, freedom is important. Mm-hmm. Is important in your life, and obviously, yes. Mm-hmm. It is incomprehensible how we continue to live, mm-hmm. repeating the same old patterns that are unhappy. Mm-hmm. In a way, it is excusable, because if we have not heard the message that, wait a minute, you're imagining yourself to be a person, and because you're imagining yourself to be a person, you're feeling that you're a person, and you experience yourself as a person, and you're experiencing time and space, and therefore the fear of death and all the sense of lack. If you have not heard that message and you have not understood even partially that message, then you find yourself still wrapped up in the mind. It is only when you hear the message that what I truly am is not a body-mind event, but what I truly am is awareness, this aware presence. And that message sinks in, then beauty and happiness will start to unfold in your life.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And you are drawn to that, of course.
And then the miracle thing here is that there's a direct presence of such qualities, happiness,
Absolutely.
beauty, direct presence of them, presence of presence, basically, and it has nothing to do with any loop, any feedback loop, like how's that going? How's that going?
All right. Yeah.
How long do I have to live?
Direct experience of consciousness. Consciousness recognizing itself. Consciousness recognizes itself through the world, body, mind, through the forms, through all its dreams. But when it starts recognizing itself irrespective of the world, body, mind, in other words, it starts to recognize itself directly,
yeah,
then it's a totally different revelation.
So really, it's been a while now, and I can't even really remember totally not having a sense of myself as awareness. But sometimes you can be in a room full of people and feel like nobody is awake. It's almost like it's asleep. Like it's the similar to those inhabiting the dream, a dreamscape.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
well, when you are in a room, let's say you're in a room right now.
yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
It is just presence. There is this perception.
Yes.
There may be some bodily sensations. All of that is arising openly. It's arising right there directly. Mm-hmm. Now, when I say, well, this room is full of people who are not awake, that's a mental projection. That is just a thought. It's a mental projection of others and of myself. So there has to be a me character, and a me for there to be others. And so my statement or my contention that there are others in the room that are not awake, that contention is simply speaking to that I am still experiencing myself as a separate person.
Yes, yes. Otherwise,
it's a hidden thought. It's not seen, but it's there. If you contemplate it, you will notice that whenever I'm thinking that somebody else is not enlightened, I am separating myself from the whole. Because consciousness does not experience others, me and others. Consciousness is wholeness. It's a whole, seamless, aware presence. And the experiencing yourself or knowing yourself as consciousness is knowing yourself as infinite peace, not as a personal peace, not I'm experiencing peace and the others are not. It's not that way. It is just an experience of peace, love, and freedom in which everybody and everything is embraced.
That word contention is good. Contention, because I find that sometimes, especially if I'm feeling stressed in some way, then I'll I'll start making I think rather eloquent, but that's beside the point. But I'll make an essay in my mind about how defective the
Yes.
political system is, or something like
Yes.
that.
Yes. These are avoidance patterns.
Hmm.
When we are feeling stressed or unhappy or
Hmm.
some kind of contracted space, we don't like that feeling. We don't like that
Right.
sensation. And rather than just being still and noticing that what I truly am is untouched by this thought, by this contraction,
Hmm.
rather than being still and noticing that I am untouched by whatever arises on the screen, I engage in some form of addictive escape mechanism. I may blame somebody, I may try to think myself out of it, I may eat eat my way out of it, I may exercise my way out of it,
Yeah,
etc.
yeah.
There are
Yes.
many, many, many patterns of the mind that are avoidance patterns.
Mhm.
So when there is a certain unhappiness that arises, there we can be still,
Mm.
because in the stillness, what may reveal itself to us is what I am, that I am the untouched aware presence, the
Mm.
undisturbed aware presence. But in engaging
Mhm.
with the sensation, because an unhappiness
Mhm.
is made out of a bodily sensation and is also made out of a story. So it's a combination of a bodily sensation.
Mhm.
I don't know, in your chest, in your belly, whatever. And the story, oh, why did she do that to me? Or why did he give the promotion to somebody else? Whatever the story is, oh, yeah, I thought I was more enlightened than that. It's just thought and sensation. That's what unhappiness is. So rather than being still and noticing that thought comes and goes
Mhm.
like a cloud in the sky.
Mhm.
Same, a sensation is basically completely neutral. Rather than noticing that in the stillness of being, when we engage in our patterns,
Mhm.
our addictive mechanisms,
Mhm.
blaming the other, blaming oneself, the self-blame is a big one. A lot of this,
Mhm.
there are a lot of patterns that we do
Mhm.
that maintain the me, maintain the sense of separation, you
Mhm.
see,
Mhm.
and maintain the unhappiness, because the sense of separation,
Mhm.
this sense of me and the
Mhm.
sense of the world out there,
Mhm.
that in itself is unhappiness. So as we get these various hints in satsang, and in our life we practice them, we come more and more to our experiential understanding that to be to recognize oneself as the presence is a high recognition,
Mhm.
and to engage as a person is the unhappy path.
Mhm.
So you know, for example, that I don't know, if you eat strawberries, you recognize that you're allergic. Let's say you're allergic to strawberries. Over a few times, or maybe just a few times, you notice every time you eat strawberries, you have a allergic reaction. So in due time, hopefully sooner than later,
Mhm.
you make the corrections
Mhm.
in your in your diet. So in your life, you make the correction of, rather than abiding in habitually, what's happening to me? Why did they do this to me? Why is life cruel to me? Etc. All the me as a person. We cease to feed that mechanism, and we recognize the peace of presence.
Sunny, would you put my phone outside so it doesn't turn? Yes. So that what I noticed is this story of the ongoing pre-employment program that this big corporation has that I'm working with. It's been very in depth and very deep. I mean, very exhaustive, you might say. And so I start thinking, oh, I don't want to work with these people. The vibration, it's not my vibration. It's got paranoia in it, stuff like that. Which may be true. It may be true that it's not a good match. That somewhere else is has a more relaxed thing. But anyway, the things that you're describing are what gets put into play. A compensation for feeling I'm fine. I'm happiness itself. Instead, I've gone into the story and I'm concerned.
It's also when you get these warnings, that this sort of relationship is an unhappy relationship, because there are also relationships that are unhappy.
Right.
It could be in relationships at work with people who are very controlling. Maybe have a boss who their pattern is to dominate at work in order to cover up some other psychological issues. So you do get that sense, that feeling that you need to also you need to take that in consideration, Ananda.
Yes. And that can be done. I would call it maybe in a neutral sense, but at least not in a personal.
Well, it's just noticing that this relationship is not just happy. There are some shadows in it. You're using the word, these people may be paranoid, which means there is a good reason for you to say that. There must have been some sort of behaviors that struck you that way, and I don't think that it's wise to sweep them under the rug. You need to also take in consideration those feelings you're having. Their messages also coming from consciousness, from the dream. That, wait a minute, I'm not sure that that this is the place for me. So you need to also take that in consideration.
Right, and all that, I guess I'm just bringing it all together. All of those awarenesses and considerations all can happen within a clear space, a non-reactive space, I'd say.
Right. Well, everything happens in awareness. It's all awareness. Now, to say, well, it's all awareness, and therefore these people who evoke in me the sense of paranoia, and they seem to be really dominating, and they scare me. That also is awareness. So all is well, and I'm going to disregard it. That is not understanding that this strawberry, that's a strawberry, and you're allergic to strawberries. You need to, although everything is consciousness, there are ravines, and you don't want to jump in the ravine You see, you want to walk in the safe, on the safe trail. You don't want to jump into the fire. So yes, it is all happening in awareness. Everything that unfolds, every perception, every sensation, every thought arises in awareness. Without awareness, what would it be? What would this perception be without awareness? But this perception right now, being here together in satsang, is a very sweet perception. It's a sweet gathering of friends, yes? But imagine that you are sitting here listening to Hitler talking about, the Reich and all of that. You really, that also is appearing in awareness.
Yes.
Also, the substance of that is also awareness, but it's not a happy appearance. You don't want to whitewash, is that the expression? Whitewash everything as, oh, it's all awareness, and therefore it is all equal. It is all awareness, it's equal at the awareness level. But at the body-mind level, there is healthy food and there is unhealthy food. If you feed your body junk food, you're going to become obese and sick. If you feed your body healthy food, then your body will feel more transparent and happier.
Well, I worked for a company that had a kind of similar quality as this one. It also had very high pay. I don't know how, maybe why the two go together, but and I did it for about almost a year, and then I switched to something else that was more
yes. I mean,
uncomfortable.
Yeah, when I say that you have to take in consideration also the feeling that you're having that this may not be the happiest place for you to work, you're taking everything in consideration. You take that in consideration, and also you take in consideration that the fact that these people are paying you a lot of money, and so listen, I can maybe put up with it, for a year or so.
And that's where I say, when I say it's all awareness, is the sense that I am awareness. In my awareness, this is showing up. It's not to say that vibrationally it's not my best choice, but still, it
may be the best choice at the moment. If, let's say, it's a good opportunity for you to make a lot of money and put up with some BS, so and you think that you can take it. You say, okay, I'm going to give it a try. Okay, you give it a try. So the point that I was making is that you take all of it in consideration, including the feeling that you're having that these people are maybe not the happiest people to work with. Yes.
Yeah. And if my meter goes up to a certain point, then it's just natural. No, goodbye. And if it doesn't reach that, you know what I mean.
We often believe that we make the decisions, that in fact the decisions make themselves.
Yeah. And then there's the issue, I don't want to go on forever on this, but there's another issue that sometimes you learn a lot from a challenging situation. Learn something about...
Yes, you have to pick and choose. Now to say, well, hey, I can learn from challenging situations, and okay, so Hitler is saying join the whatever the Reich, whatever. I'm going to join it. It's a challenging situation. I'm going to join it. Well, you need to, yeah, you learn from challenging situations, but some you have enough challenges. God gives us all enough challenges as it is. So don't go out and seek it. All right.
Okay. Yes, I agree.
Enough is being served to you, so.
And in this path that we're on, that I'm on, sharing it with you, it's the path of, I said before, zero tolerance for unhappiness. So it's subtle, and it doesn't require bombs. It just requires.
It's important to be clear about when I speak, or when we speak about unhappiness, what do we mean by that? And what really is unhappiness is very important to get to our clarity about this. And we need to find that out for ourselves in our own experience. Now, what I've been sharing is that we are unhappy, we experience unhappiness whenever we identify as a person, whenever we identify with this body-mind, whenever we identify with being a man, being a woman, being a father, being a mother, being this body-mind, there is unhappiness. In a relationship, whenever you're identifying as a body-mind and the other as another body-mind, there is unhappiness. So unhappiness is the identification of consciousness, which is a universal consciousness, with a particular body-mind. Now that is the explanation of it. But what matters is that you come to see that in your own experience. You see? So the zero tolerance for unhappiness, meaning the zero tolerance for leaving the wholeness of consciousness, which is God-given, this aware presence, and turn it into a personal body-mind that is on a time that is on a time clock, and the clock is ticking, and we better do our best during the time that's left for us. That is the unhappiness. So in a way, unhappiness is ignorance, the ignorance of what we truly are, the ignorance, ignoring our true nature, our true nature being universal consciousness.
Right. Thank you. That's great.
Okay, Ananda, nice talking to you.
Sorry, I joined late.
Yes. Hello, Minachi.
Hi.
Yes.
So I was listening to this talk by Dr. Eben Alexander, who's a neurosurgeon who had a near-death experience, and I think he was saying how before the experience he was like most of us, thinking that the mind, the brain, and the body is all we are. There's birth, there's life, and then there's death. But then after going through that experience, he really realized that there is the soul that is a separate part, and it is really true, all of that. But that's what you mean by when you say the universal consciousness, and I guess, and how can we realize that? How can we believe? I mean, we also want to believe that, but how can we also fully believe it for ourselves?
Yes. It is not about believing that I am universal consciousness. What really matters is that you experience because when you believe something without your experience, that belief does not last, does not stand on its own legs. It's your experience that makes your understanding, that makes your belief. And from your experience, it actually does not lead to a belief. It leads to a certainty, which is different from a belief. A belief does not have the certainty of your direct experience. So by consciousness, I refer to whatever it is that the reality that perceives, in this very moment, the reality that perceives this perception. That is my definition of consciousness. Consciousness is whatever it is that knows this perception, that perceives whatever it is that hears these words, that truly hears these words. So now we may, the mind will come on board and say, oh, okay, so he is saying whatever it is that is perceiving this perception, and the mind will fill in an object. The mind will come in and say, okay, what is perceiving this perception is me, Magdi, a man, etc. Is me, this body-mind. The mind will fill in the blank with a form, with an object. It's important to understand that the body-mind is an object, is a form, is an appearance, is something that appears, that is perceived, that is known. And the question is, what is it that perceives the body? What is it that perceives the mind? What is it that perceives a bodily sensation? There is a bodily sensation, like for example a toothache, but there is something that knows that toothache. There is something that perceives that toothache. That something that perceives the toothache is not the body. You see, that something that knows the bodily sensation is not a form. So there is a formless quality that perceives form, that perceives a thought. A thought is a subtle form. A feeling is a subtle form. It's a thought and a bodily sensation.
Okay.
A tree is a form, but a coarse form, non-subtle form. Forget the term for that. So there is something that is not a form that perceives this perception right now. That something is not phenomenal. It is noumenal. And that the reality of this perception is not just the image that is appearing, but also the knowingness of this appearance, the knowingness of this image. That is non-phenomenal, and that is what I refer to by consciousness. So this person that you mentioned in your statement, who had a near-death experience, was identified before the near-death experience as a body-mind. It was identified with his body, with his mind. But through the near-death experience, he had a peak in awareness, in consciousness. He had a peak beyond, that went beyond the mind. In other words, he had through grace, he had an invitation to perceive, to know, not via his senses, but via direct experience.
Yeah. How can we know that?
How can we know the awareness that we are? Well, you are the awareness.
Sorry.
Right now, you are this perceiving awareness. Are you not? I'm not sure. Maybe I keep losing you. Right now, it is. What is it that perceives this perception right now?
But I mean, I see that you're saying that whatever we're monitoring is the consciousness, but you can also say that there's a different levels of the brain that's more and more complex that monitors like the feeling in my hand and then the thought, and then there's another layer. So how can we know it's just not a complex form of?
There is a complex form of communication, a complex form of a complex body-mind system that let's say that integrates, all the data, that integrates, that puts together, let's say, the bits and pieces to bring this perception to be what it is, with the colors, with the shades, with the shapes, with the sensation, with all the different layers of sensations, etc. But the question is, what is it that knows that? What is it that ultimately, there is an ultimate knowingness of that? Right now, although the brain, and many layers of the brain, may be at work in putting this expression together, this perception together, this communication together, ultimately, there is something that perceives that wholeness, that perceives, that knows the perception, the experience. You see, that is not the layers of the brain. That is not all the neurons that are firing. All the neurons that are firing and all the atoms and all what's happening at the submolecular level is happening. But what ultimately knows? Because what we have as, we cannot deny the reality of our experience. And our experience is going on right now live. Yes, you cannot deny that you, whatever that is, there is an I, we refer to as I, that perceives this perception. Although there may be behind the scene all sorts of physiological and universal elements at play,
Okay.
there is an ultimate knower, an ultimate experiencer, an ultimate perceiver, and that is the self. That is consciousness.
Do you feel that, I mean, did you experience that grace? I'm just asking because I don't know if that's something I would be able to experience if I do meditation and things like that. I haven't done meditation, so I'm just asking, is it something that we can experience, or you have to luck by grace, luck, or whatever? Some people.
Well, already grace has knocked on your door. Already you are in satsang.
Yeah.
Already you are asking a question.
Yeah.
Already you are contemplating. You're already in contemplation.
Yeah.
You see, you're already in contemplation. So it's important that you recognize that you're already in contemplation, and that this contemplation is a core contemplation. It's a contemplation around truth. It's not a contemplation about theories and ideas and philosophies and world events and the latest theory. It's not about that. It's a contemplation of your direct experience that if it speaks to you at any level, it may be like a little ember. When you are starting a fire, you start the fire with just a little some dry grass, and you get a little spark that starts the fire. It's very precious. That spark is the beginning of you have to really watch it, because then it will burn and catch too, and then you can add to it more of the other twigs and the other.
And sorry if I'm taking too much time.
No,
but
not at all. This is your
say,
time.
This is, yeah, you are right. It's like a spark, and I think so many people, like, throughout life have this spark, but they're afraid to follow it because it is sort of like a hope that there is something more, but then you're just afraid to hope and then be crushed.
Yes, I understand. Now, every hope, when it is a worldly hope, when it's a personal hope, a hope, something for me, what is behind this hope is the me. And the me is temporary, meaning the body-mind is temporary, you see. So it's important to understand that only the hope that comes from the eternal, and that is hoping for the eternal, it's not hoping for an experience, because every experience is in time and space. Experiences are in time and space. Only that which is beyond experience, beyond any experience, is universal, which means only that, the ultimate knower, the ultimate consciousness, whatever you call it, there are many terms for that, the ultimate reality, let's say, only that is not in time and space. And as long as you are consider yourself to be a person, you've already imposed a certain time limitation upon yourself. You've already limited yourself by saying, well, I am this woman born on this date, and hopefully I will live for another 80 years or whatever. Or even though if it's 80 years or 100 years, it's still a limitation. 200 years, it doesn't matter. 500 years, it is still a limitation. As long as you are starting with that assumption, which I understand we all share it. We all have inherited that belief. It's not, I'm not doing it like a blame. I'm just, sharing with you that as long as we are starting with that assumption, and we are not contemplating that very assumption, we have already set a limitation, and we are doomed to be within those limitations because we're living with it. every day we're getting 1 minute or 1 day closer to death because we consider ourselves to be this body-mind. So it's very important to contemplate that, what am I truly? Tattvam asi, what am I truly? I am that. I am consciousness. And not just to sort of say these words. I am saying these words and they may sound like words, but in fact to contemplate, what is it that is real right now? Is it not consciousness? Is it not consciousness that right now is perceiving this perception? Stay open with that question. And I understand what you are saying, that all personal hopes will be crushed. But if you stay with that question openly, these personal hopes will be transformed and will in time cease to be personal and become the love for truth. They will become impersonal love. Because when you turn your attention to consciousness, when you love consciousness, when you love truth, the truth responds. When you love grace, grace responds.
Okay. Yeah, I can understand what you're saying. That it's yeah. I'll try.
Yeah, contemplate that all the doubts that you will be coming from the mind, will be coming from me in time, because the mind is conditioned to come in and squeeze in me in time. Oh yeah, but will I, when will I, oh, I have been doing it for so long, and this other person has been doing it for so long and they've been crushed. You have to develop your own internal discrimination, because it's a path of self-inquiry, meaning of self-contemplation, of self-study. And it's very important to become clear about how the mind functions. The mind always is functioning in problems. What is the next problem? What is the solution to the problem? And let me see, I have something to chew on. The mind loves to chew on problems, like a dog loves to chew on bones. The mind loves to chew on problems. And it always has a big list of problems, which is titled me in time, me in the past, me in the future, my experience, his experience, her experience, when will I? And it has nothing to do with the aware presence, the consciousness that right now perceives this perception. The true self, the I am, the I, the universal self that right now, this very moment, perceives this perception and is the only true perceiver, the only true knower, the creator of all creations.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you for your question. So it is through your questions that you really can bring up the teaching, if you want to use that term. There is a question that was sent to me, if I can respond to that before I take on whatever other questions you may have. So this was an email from Baldo. So I'm going to read it. If one knows his true nature, life is still kind of attached to our self-image of Baldo or Megdi. No, Baldo, no. Once you know your true nature, the attachment to the self-image, the me in time, the past, the future, the thoughts about me, all of that ceases to, that identification drops. It no longer is on board. The body-mind still functions because the body-mind is wired to function, to perceive, to feel hunger, to realize I need to go to work and pay the bills, etc. All of the body-mind still functions. But the identification with the person, the identification with the character, that ends. As long as there is still an identification and an attachment to an identity, you're still, the self has not yet realized itself. Continuing, even though we are not it yet, the thought is there like super glue. If we go to satsang, even if we meditate for hours, still it is there. What is meant that dissolve in your own self? Not sure I understand very what is meant by that dissolve in your own self. Baldo, you may have to rewrite the question for me another time in a different, with more clarity. But let me say a few words about the revelation of the self. The revelation of the self is also referred to as self-knowledge. Knowing oneself is knowing is the dissolution, let's say, of the belief that I am immortal body-mind, and the understanding that I, the very term I, does not refer to a body-mind. It refers to I consciousness, I awareness, I presence, I knowingness. And that this I, which is awareness, consciousness, whatever term you want to use, is not contained in a body-mind. Does not die when the body dies. Does not wake up when the body wakes up. All the mind events occur at the body-mind level. They do not occur at the consciousness level. So the revelation of the self is the dissolution of the impression of identification, me as a character, the recognition that I refers to consciousness, and that the consciousness, that which truly perceives right now, this perception, is universal, it's not personal. That is the revelation of the self. The full revelation of the self is with the recognition that I am that, and everything and everyone is that. The self. There is one reality, the reality of consciousness, and everything and everyone is this consciousness. But it's not a mental understanding solely, it's an experiential understanding. It's an understanding that is moment by moment being demonstrated in your experience. So going to satsang, meaning coming to meetings like this, serves as a reminder and a refresher in a way, and also provides you hints in your contemplation, reminds you of what you truly are, and gives you, like taking a bath, it refreshes you in truth, in the self. So it's important to regularly maintain your contemplation until your contemplation of the self, like Ananda was saying earlier, is just what you love above everything else. And then everything else will flow out of your contemplation. Because your contemplation will take you to happiness, to peace, beauty, love, and happiness. And everything else will flow from that source. meaning all your life, all the events in your life will flow from the source, from the bliss, Satchit Ananda, from the Ananda. Okay, Baldo, if you want to clarify this question further, then you can send me another email, because I was having a little difficulty in getting really clear about what you are meaning. So if there is any other question from anyone here. Yes.
I was just curious about what is everybody's personal experience. I'm honestly just curious about other people's experiences in this mystical or that thing. I'm really just want to know if anyone would like to share that.
Okay, I guess that's a question for everyone here. What is okay? I'm just leaving it open in case anybody wants to address this.
Just by coincidence, just by coincidence, I typed something which sounds more like a statement than a question, but I wanted to hear what Magdi, to get the, whenever I say something, it doesn't necessarily have a question mark, but Magdi always takes me, helps clarify where I'm going with it. So I'm going to just put it up. It's what I just wrote. I'll see. And there. And so this is a kind of a statement. It's kind of a statement of my understanding.
My understanding.
It's kind of what you just asked.
So let me read it for. When Satchitananda is the beloved, then there is a refined. See, there is an echo here. Okay, let me try again. What I did is Can everybody read what Ananda wrote?
Mine disappeared.
Okay. Let me just do one thing here. Okay. Still an echo. Okay, let me try now. Still an echo. No. Okay. So when I muted people are, the echo stopped. So let me read then what Ananda wrote. When Satchit Ananda is the beloved, then there is a refined sensitivity to any unhappiness. So then the practice doesn't need difficult situations. It is a subtle matter of differentiating between happy, beautiful reality and any illusory elements which show up in the space. And this approach seems to take the difficult aspect out of challenging situations or conditions. Let me see if I can, put what you just wrote, Ananda, if you don't mind, in other words, yes? So, when you are a truth lover, when you become fascinated and drawn to truth, and not to all the mind stories and all the conditioning and all the belief structures and all the stories and histories, then you don't tolerate much unhappiness. Actually, in fact, Ananda, none of us tolerates unhappiness. We really, deep down, we want happiness. We know happiness. We love happiness. We want happiness. We want to be happy. But somehow, the game, the way it's playing itself, is we stubbornly stay with the me stories and her and why did this happen to me? Oh, gee, I had this experience in the past. Where is it now? We stay habitually with the stories and the thinking that are not happy, and they're not happy because these thoughts and these stories separate me. They maintain a me that is limited and incomplete, that hopefully sometime in the future will get it. And that is pretty miserable, because if you're not happy now, who cares about happiness tomorrow? That's like selling you land in Alaska. Oh yeah, we have 20 acres in Alaska for $100. Who cares about? We don't live in Alaska. We want happiness. So
Funny.
yeah. So yes, the practice doesn't need difficult situations. The difficult situations that we have in our life, and we all know them, they are a gift to us. They're basically coming to us because we are moving in the wrong direction. When we're moving away from truth, the path initially seems very happy. Oh, beautiful car, beautiful house. Wow, nice raise. Oh, I've got a beautiful, family. Initially, it seems like that, and then it starts to crumble. The job, it takes so many hours. You have to commute in traffic. Your boss doesn't like you, gives a promotion to somebody else, etc. You have to sit for hours in your chair. You develop a pot belly. Your back starts hurting you. You got a problem with your legs. Who knows what? Same thing in relationship. Oh, beautiful wife, beautiful husband. You come home, gee, she hasn't cooked dinner. She's dancing. She's taking dance lessons. Or you have a husband who would rather go drinking with the guys and will say, "Darling, I'll be home at 9:30 p.m." So initially the path is open and broad, but it starts to get narrower and narrower and narrower and narrower. And then it gets narrower as a reminder to us. So wait a minute, you're going in the wrong direction. Your happiness is not about health and wealth and experiences and objects and so on.
Sorry, you're saying it's narrower. Is that by design? That's meant to be narrow because somebody is trying to, like God or some force is trying to purposely make it difficult because this is the wrong path?
Well, you could say it that way. You could say that basically it's a generosity. It's the kindness of God. Let's say use the term God, the kindness of consciousness, that consciousness cannot tolerate when you're moving away from her. When you're moving away from her into money and fame and health and wealth, consciousness doesn't like that and says, "Come back to me." But you don't hear it. It says, "Come back to me." You don't hear it. So consciousness pinches you. It pinches you a small pinch initially. But if you don't listen to the pinch, you say, "Oh no, he gave the raise to somebody else. Well, I'm going to go to his superior, and I'm going to raise hell with his superior." You go to his superior, and then you get a bigger pinch. You get fired. Okay. So yes, consciousness pinches you because cannot tolerate you, meaning because the you is always consciousness, cannot tolerate to separate itself. Consciousness cannot tolerate to separate itself from itself. So when it separates itself from itself, it is like a rubber band. It can only stretch so much and it starts to pull back. And the way it pulls back is by pinching you.
Okay, I was asking because I wanted to know if you were saying there's like an intelligent guide that is orchestrating.
You could say there is an intelligent guide in the whole thing, which is consciousness. Consciousness is dreaming the whole thing. There's only one creator. There cannot be multiple creators, because if there are multiple creators, what knows them? There is something that knows all these multiple creators, which is the ultimate creator or creation. Just using language with its limitations here. Yes. Okay. There is an ultimate design, and the ultimate design is consciousness that is playing the game of forgetting itself. It forgets itself by identifying itself as a man or a woman. as a person in time and space. And as soon as it forgets itself, meaning it forgets that it is wholeness, that it is completeness, that it is totality, and instead it identifies with a mortal body mind that is living in time and space, then because of that separation, it's intolerable. It's playing the game of separating itself. It wants to come back to itself. And so this is whenever it separates itself, there is unhappiness, meaning the pinches that we experience in our life, the disappointments we experience in our life with, in our relationships, at work, we all experience the pinches in life, and they have one objective, which is to return us to the source, to bring us back to the contemplation of, hey, what is going on here? I know there is happiness. I know there is love, beauty, joy, and freedom. Where is it? How come I can't find it in money? I cannot find it in sex. I cannot find it in food. I cannot find it in health. Where is it?
You would, I don't know, it just seems, yeah, maybe you would just think it would be easier for people to follow, right? I don't know why then consciousness makes it so difficult to, yeah.
Well, we could say that it's a play of consciousness. Consciousness is complete freedom. It's God's freedom to create all creations any way that she wants, any way that she wishes. But what's really beautiful, it's really important to recognize, what's really beautiful is when God starts to recollect itself, meaning when God invites you, meaning it's always inviting itself to the contemplation, what am I truly? That is an important message from God that you should not ignore.
Okay.
There is, yes.
I look on the pinches as kisses, and if I look on the pinches as kisses, then I am more welcoming. It's easier for me to surrender to what could be perceived by others as pinches.
Yeah. Well, if you look at the pinch as a way for you not just to sort of go into your patterns, oh, why is this happening to me? Gee, I was such a good, I bought them flowers and I did all this and they turned me down. The pinches, they're not for you to maintain your story, because if you maintain your story, then the pinch just gets worse and worse. But yes, if you contemplate the pinch as an opportunity for you to sort of pause, just to pause and say, what is going on here? And
pinches are there to let you drop your story.
Yeah. Drop your story. Dropping the story is, you can't drop the story without recognizing that first it is a story, but what is it that is experiencing the story, that is perceiving the story? There is a reality. Even to a story, there is a reality. Even to your dream, whatever is arising in your dream, there is a reality. So yes, it is a story. We drop the story, but more than that, Lina, is to go to beyond the story to what is the reality of the story. There is something that knows the story. So you go from the story to consciousness. And it's that going to consciousness that is the direct path. It's not just dropping the story, because in dropping the story, there may still be an impression of a me. I'm dropping this story, but there's this I, it's still in me. What is it that is perceiving the story? What is it that's dropping the story? You see, consciousness doesn't
have a story.
have a story. It doesn't.
Right.
So when you drop the story, what is it that's dropping the story?
Yeah, you're saying that it's the me that drops the story.
You have to look
Is
at
that
that.
what you're saying?
You have to look at that. You have to look at that. What drops the story? What am I? What is it? What is the reality? What is the reality of this moment?
The reality is there is no story.
The reality of this moment. What is it? What is the reality of this moment? I am. We all know I am. Whatever it is. I don't mean like the man or woman. No. I mean there is presence right now. It's not. This is not nothing. Even if the perception, the image is appearing as a dream, it may be a dream. Still, there is a reality that perceives this dream.
Mm-hmm.
Or if this perception is real, whatever that means, then there is something real that's perceiving this real perception. There is something real that is beyond the perception that's perceiving it, that's knowing it, which we refer to as I. Yes?
Mm-hmm.
So you go from the story to the I. Not to I make the eyeliner, I, this body-mind. But the I, the reality that right now perceives this perception, the reality of consciousness.
Well, I thought that's what I said.
Yes. Okay.
That's what you
So I'm in conversation with you. You know that I'm with you in conversations. Yes. So yes, that's.
I
So
thought you were tweaking what I said, but I thought that's what I was saying.
Okay.
So I was looking for the tweak, but I couldn't find the tweak.
Mm-hmm. So always when we refer to I, which we use that quite often, it's important in your contemplation to look what is meant by I. Because knowing oneself is the highest knowledge. You know what the saying goes, know yourself and know God?
Yes.
Yes. It's the highest knowledge. So to know this, the I.
The I is
Huh?
consciousness.
What was that?
The I is consciousness. The I is consciousness.
To know yourself as consciousness. Now, it's important to, at some point in time, to understand that the mind cannot know consciousness.
Yeah.
Meaning, the person, the mind, thought cannot know the thinker. The thinker knows thoughts, but the thought cannot know the thinker. Yes. The perceived cannot know the perceiver. Yes?
Yeah, I'm sorry. It just froze.
Yes.
So I didn't quite get the whole sentence.
The thought, the perceived, cannot know the perceiver.
Correct, yes.
It's the perceiver that perceives all perceptions.
Right.
So the mind is known. The mind is perceived. It's made out of thoughts, sensations, bodily sensations, world perceptions.
Yes.
That's what we refer to as the mind is perceived.
Yes.
So the mind, thought, cannot know consciousness, cannot know that which knows it.
Yes.
So how then can we know consciousness? Can we know ourselves?
But we can't know consciousness.
We cannot know consciousness via the mind.
Right.
But we can know consciousness via consciousness.
Yes.
We can know consciousness directly via consciousness. Consciousness knowing itself, which is referred to as self-knowledge. The self knowing itself. Self-knowledge. Recognition, the recognition of the I, the recognition of the self, of the universality, the eternity, the infinity of the self. That is a direct knowledge. Consciousness can know itself. It's self-knowing.
Yes.
It's like, imagine the sun, but imagine a sun that knows itself, that is self-knowing. So its rays of the sun are all self-knowing. They all know the sun, and the sun is self-knowing. But they also go out, and when they touch a tree, they know the tree. They know the tree. But because they are self-knowing, they know the tree as themselves.
Right.
But not only that, in that metaphor, not only does the sun go out and touches the tree, the sun goes out and creates the tree as it touches it. It creates it and knows it. So consciousness is the creator of all creations and the knower of all what it creates. You follow? Now,
yes, I'm following.
A good example of that is in your night dream. In your night dream, you create your night dreams. You create a pink flying elephant, you create a lake, you create whatever. You create all sorts of mind stuff. You create them, but you also know them because you're experiencing, you're the one who's perceiving the pink flying elephant. You're the one who's flying over the mountain. So it's a night dream is a good metaphor for consciousness, that it creates and knows simultaneously. And of course, it destroys, because the pink flying elephant is gone, and now there is a rose, or there is a stream. The pink flying elephant is gone.
Sorry, when you said that the consciousness should know itself, how do you perceive that? Does that come up through feelings, or is it another thought-like thing? Or
No, it's a good question. A feeling, let's take a feeling, for example, a feeling in your belly or a feeling in your legs. That feelings, and also thoughts, a thought about my mother or a thought about New York City, feelings and thoughts are known. In other words, consciousness perceives them. There is something that perceives that thought, or that perceives that sensation. A feeling, for example, I'm feeling sad. Let's say I'm feeling sad. The feeling is made out of a bodily sensation. When you feel sad, usually your throat is there is a knot in your throat, or your belly or your neck or your shoulders are tight. So it's a bodily sensation. Plus there is a story. Oh, you know, I lost my whatever. I lost a dear one. So there is a thought and there is a bodily sensation, but we call them the feeling. Both the thoughts and the bodily sensation, which are the feeling, are known. You experience them. What is it that experiences the feeling? What is it that perceives the feeling and says, I feel sad? You see?
but that's not the brain.
It's not the brain. The brain is part of the feeling, part of the bodily sensation. It's an equipment. It's part of the equipment, part of the tool. But what is it that perceives this bodily sensation and the thought and says, I feel sad? There is something that perceives that and calls it, I feel sad. What is the I? What is it that perceives, and what is it the I that feels sad? Because when you say I feel sad, there is an I in there. What is this I? And what is it that says that? You see? When you ask these questions, you're you're opening Pandora's box. You're saying, wait a minute, there is bodily sensation, there is something that perceives as bodily sensation, obviously. Otherwise, if a bodily sensation is not perceived, it would not even be. What is a bodily sensation that I'm not perceiving, that is not perceived? Let's say I have a toothache and it's not perceived. That would not even be a toothache. So as soon as there is a bodily sensation, there is also an experiencer of that. There is a knowingness of that. Yes? So what is that knowingness? We know that the toothache is at the physiological level, is at the body-mind level. In the specific case, it's in the specific example, it's in the mouth that we know. But what is it that knows that? You see? When you ask these questions, you're going to consciousness. These questions are key questions that are knocking at the door of consciousness, telling consciousness, hello, I want to know you. What is it that's knocking at the door of consciousness? It's a good question. What is it that's saying, I want to know you? If there is one reality, which we all have an intuition that there is one reality, then whatever is knocking at the door of consciousness is consciousness itself. Consciousness wanting to know itself. It's like the parable of the prodigal son. The prodigal son leaves, I don't know if you know that parable, I think in the Christian tradition, the prodigal son leaves his parents' castle and goes looking for happiness away from the castle or from home. And then after a while cannot find it and then returns home. See, the son has always been belonging to the castle, belonging to the home. But he left the home, but has to come back to recognize the happiness. It's a parabola, of course, it's a limited parabola, but consciousness identifies itself with the body-mind, experiences unhappiness and then wants to return, cannot stand the unhappiness, and wants to return to know itself. And the answer to your question is the knowingness of consciousness is a direct knowingness. It is not through feelings, it is not through thought, it is a direct knowingness. I know myself directly as consciousness. I know myself directly as that, as presence, as awareness. It is just turn your attention to awareness, and awareness will reveal itself to you, and it will reveal itself as you. And in time, if you continue your contemplation with the correct guidance, it will reveal itself as the universal you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So if there are any other questions?
Magdi, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Yes, I can.
Hi. Fantastic. First time I've come and sat with you, actually. I've been listening to everything you've been saying, and something kind of intuits something, but also the mind really tries to take hold of it all and understand it intellectually. And I can see this. It's you know, the me. I've clearly seen me as a conglomerate of beliefs and everything else, but also I'm really still buying into this me thing, and it feels very weighty and very heavy now. And before before I was kind of aware of of what you're talking about, that the me is not actually a reality, it's just kind of a collection of thoughts and conditions, now than it ever has. You know, the kind of sense of me feels kind of, not all the time, but can feel quite weighty. So I just wonder if you could say something about that.
Yes. I'm going to mute your mic just for a minute, just to avoid the echo. So, but if you want to speak, please unmute yourself and speak. So yes. So there is a recognition that this me stuff, this conglomerate of conditions, of beliefs, of repetitive patterns is pretty uncomfortable, and there isn't like much light, much joy in it. And that's very important recognition, because you're basically realizing that this is not a happy path. It looks like a really dark tunnel. Where is the light? And you know, I love the light. I love the joy. I love the happiness. I love the laughter. I love the beauty. I don't. It's not there. It's the mind. It's just a conglomeration of. It's a web of unhappiness. Let's say, just to sort of put it that way. And it's important to come to that understanding. But beyond that, it is also important for you to contemplate that what is it that's perceiving that? What is it? You're recognizing that the mind is not the way. What is it that's recognizing that? What is it that's perceiving that? This is where you need to go. You need now that you've recognized, okay, fine, this Alibaba's chamber is just really a doom and gloom. You know, that I don't need to continue down in that direction. Fine, it will arise as it arises, but that's not what I'm going to feed. I'm not going to feed that beast. Now you need to turn your attention to, well, what is it that's perceiving that, or that's perceiving this perception right now? What is it that is aware right now? What is awareness? You have to go to your contemplation of awareness. The direct contemplation of awareness is available to you now, because first, you're no longer being distracted by going into the world, body, mind stuff that you've done over and over and over. So that you're not dissipating your energy in that direction. And secondly, the contemplation of awareness is fully available to you because you are awareness. Through and through, you are the light of awareness. And it's not a body-mind that you are. You've never been a body-mind. Body-mind has appeared to you, disappears to you in deep sleep every night. Between every thought, it appears and disappears. So you've never been the body-mind. Consciousness, awareness, presence. I use various terms. It's your first satsang with me, but I use a variety of terms. They're always referring in various terms, just so that a variety of people use different terms. They sort of bring them together, because there aren't multiple realities. It's one reality. You can call it reality, truth. It does not matter. God. It does not matter what you call it. What is it that is real? You have to go now to the reality. Now that you have recognized the false, settle in the reality. Recognize yourself as presence, as awareness, as consciousness, and contemplate that this consciousness that right now perceives this perception is not an object, is not male or female, is not tall or short, has no age, is not born, has no viscosity, has no density, does not start here and end there. Contemplate the qualities of this consciousness, and you will come to the eternity and infinity of consciousness. You will come to the universality of consciousness, to the borderless, to the seamless quality of consciousness, to the edgelessness of consciousness. And it is upon this coming, it's upon this revelation, that the wholeness of being is revealed to you. And this revelation may happen in various steps and stages, but this is the path to God, the path to truth, the ultimate path to self-realization. Let me see, maybe I'm unmuting. Okay, I think I just, let me see if I can unmute you, or maybe if you want to, if you have any questions.
Yeah,
Okay.
no, yeah, I mean, I've had some wonderful connections with presence and feeling very light and everything else, and I think because of that, it makes it so much like in a comparison, you know, the weight of just being so wrapped up in me and what I'm thinking and everything else. It makes it all the more unbearable, you know, whereas when it's been very light and lovely and you know, and it's very difficult to explain, but that kind of presence, you know, to have that and then to just the mind to take over, it's like boom, it's like landing back down.
Yes.
Yes. And I think at the moment, you know, just to be encouraged, just to keep, you know, because sometimes the mind comes in and says, "Oh, you're never going to get this," you know. I mean, I'm sure you know the stories, and especially if I'm feeling a bit constricted, it's like, you see, you're nowhere near, you know. It's just not listening to that dialogue, and actually sometimes it's because it's such a habit to listen to the mind conversation. It seems to be an effort not to get pulled into the story sometimes, and I don't know if that's quite normal for early, you know, early stages. It's quite early in for this for me. But also I'm aware that I can see my hand, and if I can see my hand, I'm not my hand.
Yes.
You know, and there's some of that coming through. Sometimes life can seem a bit dreamlike and a little bit unreal, you know, so there's stuff moving and changing. And it's almost like the boat being, you know, it's lost its mooring, so I kind of don't know where I am at the moment. You know, I was kind of like so sure of what I was, and now I'm not at all sure at all. And so sometimes it can feel like I've lost my moorings, and I'm just kind of trusting that I'm being guided into the right direction, and doing the meditations and just allowing everything, just to not try and resist, you know. So that's where it is at the moment. Anyway.
Okay. Let me just say a few things. First, yes, it is normal to go back and forth. You know, the habits of the mind are very powerful. We've been entertaining the mind and identifying with the body-mind for so long. So the revelation of the self is, you know, shifts everything, but there is still a momentum to the mind in its ending. It's like although the beast has been mortally wounded, it's not fully dead yet. It still has a little, you know, time to it. A good metaphor also is if you have like a large tanker and you know, you're coming to port about 20 miles before or 10 miles before reaching port, it shuts off its engines. And although it's shut off its engine and the motors aren't turning anymore, still there is a momentum, there is a mass, there is a certain drive that will keep that boat, you know, going and moving. Of course, at a diminishing rate to port. Of course, these are metaphors, just to sort of you know, illustrate a little bit, you know, what happens with the mind sort of still rebels and will arise to try to pull you back into, hey, you know, me, you know, come back to me. But the way I like to look at, like, when the mind arises, that the mind is arising with some of its leftover tendencies, and it's just arising with these tendencies for these tendencies to be liberated, not for these tendencies to be confirmed, to be affirmed, or to be fixed or repaired or fought against. No, they're just coming out into space, and so we allow them to, hey, you're welcome, arise, you're coming back, you know, come, and all the doors and windows are open. So it just can come, sort of flow through, does not land and starts to copulate and produce offsprings. It's not like that. It's just out here to sort of arise. So when these tendencies arise, the me tendencies, they try to pull you into the identification. But your interest is no longer in identification. The interest is in peace. So you feel, so the mind will say, okay, wait a minute, I'm trying to pull her into the identification and she's resisting. So let me make her feel like she's lost. So I'm going to go into your body mind and I'm going to make you feel like, oh, you're lost your moorings and now you're lost. Oh my goodness, you're lost. You know what? Consciousness has nothing to do with this lost or no lost. And in your when you are sleeping and you're dreaming that you are 12-year-old lost in the forest, in fact, you're not at all 12-year-old lost in the forest. You're in bed, nice, tucked in, yeah, you know, you're comfy. It's just a dream, and the mind will come with worse and worse dreams. Oh, you're lost. Oh, you had this experience last year. Now the experience is diminishing. Oh, you're not doing good. Oh, you need, etc. It'll just come with. But all these we recognize them. We recognize these tendencies, and the recognition of these tendencies is an important recognition, because when we don't recognize them, we believe them. Say, oh my God, yes, I'm lost. Well, what's going to happen to me? What me? I'm not in me. I'm consciousness. What happens to consciousness? Are you kidding me? What happens to reality? Well, what sort of a question is that? That's a joke. Consciousness, reality is. It's isness. It is, period. Happening and non-happening, that's at the mind level. That's what's happening to my car, to the roses, to my garden, my vegetable garden, what's happening to my son, that's at the mind level. But now we're at the consciousness level, and the consciousness level, when the mind comes and says, oh, what's happening to me, the mind is talking at a different level than the self, than presence. And that recognition is really an important recognition, because that recognition will diminish the tendency. It might not totally eliminate it right away, but it will diminish, and in time it will eliminate the tendency to go to try to fix the mind, save the mind, fix me, and blah, blah. Thank you for your questions, and very lovely to meet you and be with you in this meeting. I'm feeling a little tired. Thank you all. Very, very lovely to be with you all. I wish you happiness, and we will be meeting again. I think, what is it today? Thursday. So maybe Sunday, if not next Thursday. So namaste, everyone, and peace.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you all.